Hey folks, so today I thought I'd just do a really quick review about writing your outline, and then for the rest of the time I expect you to be writing your outline. For attendance today, I expect you to turn in your outline tonight, okay? So as a reminder, this is what the outline format looks like. This is what I want. I don't want an essay. I don't want any other weird formats that you might have found online. This is what I'm looking for, okay? You can find this on the assignment page and use this document. For this assignment, it should only be approximately 2 to 3 pages, okay? If 3 minutes is 1 page, maybe 1 1/4, then in theory, 6 minutes, which is the max amount of time for this speech, should be just a little bit bigger than this, right? It should be 2 pages would be 6 minutes. So it should be 2 to 3 pages max. That does not include your references, which should be on the next page. So a couple things to think about. At the top of your outline, you're going to see the general purpose, specific purpose, thesis, and organizational structure. So the general purpose for this is going to be to inform. It's an informative speech. And your specific purpose needs to include the word inform and audience, because you want it to be audience specific. Today I'm going to inform my audience about the U.S. electoral system. Okay? Then you're going to want your thesis, and again, this is not an English class, so your thesis, we want it to be clear. You got to get through all that noise. So thesis, I'm going to explain the historical rationale for the electoral system. Boom. Organizational pattern. There's a couple of ones that you could use. You could use topical or categorical, biographical or chronological. You could use spatial. I'm telling you to stay away from problem, cause, solution, because that may promote a more persuasive speech. As a general statement, as long as you don't tell your audience what to do, it's fine. So if you wanted to talk about problem, cause, solution, and have the solution be something somebody else is doing and you're informing us on it, that is acceptable, okay? For this speech right here, this mock speech I wrote up, I'm using cause and effect. So, moving on to your introduction. Think about your impactful openings. Does it demand attention? For examples, reference to a current event, an anecdote, open with a question, open with a quotation, a startling statement, or a personal experience or reference. Remember, if you're going to ask a question, be specific with what you want your audience to do. Raise your hand, imagine, think about. That connection is your audience connection. You've got to make your audience care about your topic. What's in it for them? How are you going to make your audience care? And it could be talking about how it's relevant to them. It could talk about how it's important for them to know. You could make it something that really relates to them. Your thesis and your preview. Do you know who the speech is about? And does the writer provide a preview? That should be what the speech is about. I'm going to change that when I get into class, but for you guys who are watching this online, you get a nice little mistake there. So this is my mock introduction. In the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump for the presidency, and yet she lost. Imagine if you were voted in by a majority of Americans and still lost the election. I'm going to explain the historical rationale for the U.S. Electoral College system and its effect on modern politics. We will start with the historical context of what the 3/5 compromise is, and we will end with the effect that the Electoral College has on modern politics. Boom. I hit my 4 different areas. I've got a startling statistic up at the top. It's a fact. 3 million more people voted for Hillary Clinton, and yet she lost. We have a good preview talking about exactly what I'm going to be talking about. Thesis is clear, and a connection. The main points, think about your organizational pattern. How do you want to organize them? It's your speech. Are you going to talk about it chronologically and just give us a historical look at, say, the Black Plague? Or are you going to hit on 3 different areas? For example, talk about nothing's coming to mind right now. I'm sure you guys can think of something. Make sure that every single fact has a proper in-text citation. If you have an author's name, then it would be the author's name, no first name, no initials, author's last name, comma, and the year. That's it. Doesn't matter if you know the month and the day, I just want the year. If you don't have the author's name. Then the title of the article moves into the place of the article, place of the author. You'll notice that it's in quotes. And if there's no date, you put N period, D period for no date. Make sure that you have 5 highlighted orally cited sources. Highlighted. It can be yellow, it can be blue. I don't care if you are working off of Pages, which is an Apple product. I find it's difficult to highlight on there. Just turn it into red, like I did here. Are there transitions between the main points, the review and the preview? So, for example, my main point 1 is historical context. The idea of the Electoral College began during the Constitutional Convention. And you'll notice that A, this is kind of the big idea. B, I have an in-text citation. According to History.com article, Why Was the Electoral College Created?, written in 2019, the Founding Fathers debated for months, with some arguing that the Congress should pick the president, and others insistent on a democratic popular vote. This is one of my orally cited sources, and it's highlighted in red, so while I'm grading you all, I'm not worried that you don't have enough orally cited sources. And then I take that quote and I describe what it means. The compromise found was the Electoral College, which allowed a small group of electors who elect the president. So you'll notice I have a big idea, I have my quote, my orally cited source, and then I tell you what it means. I made this kind of short so it fit on a slide. Your main point should be a little bit more fleshed out than this, but this is just an example. And then here's my transition. Now that we better understand why the Founding Fathers created the Electoral College, let's focus on how that affects modern politics. And then I move on to my effects on modern politics. Don't forget that transition should review what we talked about and preview what we will talk about. Then we get into our conclusion. So make sure that you have that signal to conclusion. In conclusion, to review, for the last 4 minutes we talked about, whatever it happens to be. Make sure you got that conclusion review. It should look a lot like your preview, but it can be a little bit more fleshed out. And then conclude with impact. So for example, in conclusion, we discovered, here's my review, the cause of the Electoral College was a compromise to count slaves not as full voting citizens, reducing them to 3 people for every 5 slaves. The effect of the Electoral College on modern politics, including electing 5 presidents who did not win the popular vote. I restate my thesis. Today you are better informed about the historical rationale for the U.S. Electoral College system and its effect on modern politics. And then we've got our conclude with impact. You'll notice that this is highlighted again because it's another orally cited source. Gene Green reportedly said the Electoral College was necessary when communications were poor, literacy was low, and voters lacked the information about out-of-state figures. Do you think that this is still true today? Thank you. That would be a great conclusion with impact. You got a quote and you've got a rhetorical question there. So don't forget about your references. Your references need to be in APA. Remember, that is part of the student learning objectives. You need to learn how to do APA. So it should be in alphabetical order. It should be properly aligned, justified left. It should have that hanging indent for any second or third lines of a reference. Titles should be lowercase unless they're proper nouns. You should have the ampersand in between the second to last and last author, and it should be properly labeled. References, not works cited. I'll tell you right now, the very first thing I check is your references. If your references look like crap, I just assume everything else does. And it's not fair and it's not right, but that's how I do it. So you want your references to look good. This is a great example of references that look good. This was from this semester, so you might be looking at one of your own references here. I don't know, but it was just such a good, clear reference page, right? You've got that hanging indent. You've got capitalizations in the right place. You've got the HTTPS. The date is done in the year, comma, month, day format. This is a perfect example. This is how it should look when you turn it into me. And remember, minimum of 5 references. Minimum of 5 orally cited sources, minimum of 5 references. So if you have any questions, email me. It's going to be due tonight at 11:59 p.m. on Canvas. Remember, Canvas doesn't like Pages. That's that Apple Word document. Canvas doesn't accept it. So export it as a doc file or just print it off as a PDF and it will work fine. Full sentence outlines. Okay, I want to know what you plan to say. I expect that it will change, but I want to see what you plan on saying. Make sure that you have those in-text citations after every fact, not just your orally cited sources, but after every fact, and make sure you have a good reference page. Make sure that you're using that proper outline format. All right, well, that's all I've got. I'm going to be here for the rest of the day, making sure that you all are keeping on track, that I can answer questions, and because I'm quarantined at home and I can't go anywhere anyway. So y'all be good, be sane, be safe, and be healthy. I'll talk to y'all soon.